Today's Coffee and Consulting about increase in remote work and working from anywhere. I hope you had a very nice weekend and started well the Monday, and also just grabbed your a coffee or some tea or something to drink so that we you can enjoy the next 30 minutes. I'm your host for today. My name is Friederike Ruch, and I'm the CEO of Convenus. Today's topic is something I think we all are aware of, that remote work and working from anywhere is something we have to deal with. We are happy to deal with, but it's a topic on everyday's agenda. Before we start, there are two things. One thing, you are only on listen only mode. Put in case you do have any questions or would like to raise an opinion or an idea, please do so. There is on the right hand side the option in the question box where you can indicate everything. In case there are any questions, I'll see whether we can still answer them during the coffee and consulting event, or we do that later on by email. Also, in case you would like to have the slides for you, then please download them while the coffee and consulting event is going, so that you have it for later on. In case you would like to look at it or listen to it again later, then this event will be recorded and you can then check it out on YouTube. Then let's start. If you look in the internet, as well as discuss with colleagues, other companies, other firms, then I think everybody has a bit of a different idea what remote work is. So before we start, therefore, we would like to quickly look at what the definition would be for today's and what we understand as remote work. We look at a couple of statistics we picked out, still quite a lot, and we will not raise all of that which is indicated on the slide, but still we thought it's worthwhile to have it on the slide. Also, again, you can look at that later. If we look at remote work, then clearly that's not in all industries on today or on the agenda, but we look at what are the top industries we can find that, as well as what are the top occupations we will find that. Then we also looked at it and discussed that also during the last couple of years already. How many times is a company offering remote work? How does that look? Beneficials and compensation. I think there is still, we can learn still a bit from the past as well as I think we will, or most likely will change our idea and the way we deal with that today, most likely in the future. Advantages, disadvantages, which we see, what remote work is doing, also from an employer side as well as from an employee side. In the end, if we think about it, what can we learn from the past or from today? We also need to think about what can we do better for the future. Locations, where is remote work? Where can you find it? Where do people work then? Legal aspects, as well as how does the future look, and whether we think that remote work would be something we will still have to discuss in a couple of years, or it will be kind of like a hype gun. Remote work is basically if an employee performs his work outside of the company's own office space, and that can be kind of everywhere. It's a location the workers or maybe also sometimes the employer choose, but it's not in the office premises. So it can be in a co-working space, at home, at a cafe, wherever. Holiday destinations, if we talk about vacation. So it can really be any other place. And if we look at that definition and look at the um, work locations, kind of remote work can happen, then you see the big area we are in and the things we have to look at. And each location has a bit of other challenges, advantages, as well as things you need to take care of. Looking at a couple of statistic data, one I think is if we look at the first two on that slide, 260 million are apparently permanently remote workly, which is quite a lot looking at our population. Um, and 91% of employees worldwide prefer to work fully or almost completely remotely. Now, that is also, it depends a bit on in which country you are, which statistics you look at, who are the participants, and then the numbers will change a bit. Because if you look at the part that, and if you discuss or think about the today's generations, the younger generation, then you see as well that there's a bit of a change towards that remote work. The remote working part is about in the age group 24 to 35, where it's mostly happening. Now in the younger age groups, there is the idea that they definitely would like to actually work in the office or somewhere, because also looking at their way, their living situation, usually they are maybe sharing an apartment where it's not really possible to work there, as well as they would really like to go out and meet people. So there's a bit of a different way. I think what you can really assess is that people or employees are looking as a priority on their private lives and the way and their private living situation, and see that they how can now work fit the best to it. Whereas I would say when I more or less started work, it was like you had work and you kind of saw that you try to put your private life around work. So that I think the mentality and the idea about what work means and what kind of a priority it is in your life, that has changed slightly. Um, I think the flexibility part about remote work is definitely something where you can find in all the statistics and everywhere as one of the major points. Productivity is always an issue. It always brought forward that depending on kind of who you ask, then they have different opinions of it, whether someone is more productive working from home compared to someone working in the office, or vice versa. I think that is also not that easy to actually judge and say. Um, Personally, I think it also depends a bit on what you do and the task. And if I look at my work, then definitely there are certain things where you might have you can better quietly work at home from time to time, just if you have to write an article or a long assessment. whereas for other things, definitely working in the office might make much more sense and is the better way and is more efficient. So I think it depends a bit on what you do as well. What we definitely see is that companies who have stated now, and we've seen there are a couple of companies who said, okay, we are actually finishing all that part about remote work. We want to have everybody back in the office. They are also struggling a bit. And I think in the end, it's with everything, you need to kind of find a balance which works best for everybody. And you as much as we can't deny that remote work is happening, we also will not be able to actually say everybody has to remote work. So it has pros and cons, and we will look at the advantages and disadvantages in a moment. If we look at the industries, so the top industries, and they are almost everywhere listed the same. Maybe it changes a bit what is place two, one and place two, but basically computer IT is definitely something which is quite good and well known as well for that someone can work in that area remotely. And for the top jobs is definitely accountant, where you don't have really much attention to actually any other employee. You just do the bookkeeping on your own, so you don't really need anything. And with looking that companies try to digitalize whatever or however it is possible and do more or less, you can do everything really online, or better to say, on the computer. You don't need effective papers, and invoices are not printed out any longer. So that definitely, I think, helps a lot. Um, Project manager, executive assistant, financial analyst. I think the list is long about those jobs, and depending a bit also then in the end in which industry or company you are, maybe even if you are listed now as one is the top job and place one might be not in your company the same situation. Depending on who you ask again, you get different answers about how many times remote work shall take place. Um, and there, if you look at the data we have brought below, where it's indicated how many days a worker should spend or is spending in the office, then you see that between 3 and 4 days in the office, it's the majority, it's 41% or 32%. So the majority still works 3 or 4 days in average in the office, which will also get back to us that if we look at hybrid work, and that's where if we look at the right state data, hybrid work is about 27% occurs in companies, which is about one third of the almost one third of the population in a firm. So I think that is quite good. And if you then add the fully remote, so you have about one third of the employee staff, which is kind of where you have the topic of working remotely. If you ask employees what their wishes are, then 35% prefer to work fully remote, and there again, the preferred option is hybrid, about almost 60%, which I think is also gives a good balance in the end. So you don't kind of terminate or stop or end the attachment to the other colleagues and everything. You see each other on those days you are in the office. You can discuss stuff then, instead of doing everything online and on your own. I think that kind of works well for lots of people. Now, if we choose to have people working remotely in our firms, then definitely we also need to look at what are the benefits for the employee, but also for the employers. And there, if we look at the employer side, then there's also some indications. So there's a certain annual saving you have per employee in case the employee is basically not working in the office. Whether that is now $10,000 or not, that's a bit, yeah, I question that number. But the that you have an annual saving because you don't have to have a desk and everything for the employee. There's no cleaning, office space, and so on. So yes, that's the case. Um, Also, I think that is true. Reduced absenteeism, because basically, if you can work from home, it's a bit harder than to say you're not working. So I think that also makes it a bit easier. Apparently, there's an increase of productivity. Um, Also, maybe because people don't have to commute so much, so therefore also they try to put their hours together, um, which might be leading to that. Um, Looking on the salary part, apparently there are some studies that people working fully remote earn apparently a bit more on average than someone working fully in the office. Now, there I think that might be true, and I think one thing we have to really look at, or maybe also discuss and think about it, whether now, in case you are a Swiss firm and you hire people, for example, in the UK, you don't want to move them to Switzerland, or better to say, maybe the employee doesn't want to move to Switzerland, then you need to think about whether you now pay that employee who is working 100% in the UK for you, whether you want to pay them the Swiss salary you would pay if the individual would be working in Switzerland, or whether you say, okay, the UK cost of living is a bit lower, salary level in the UK is a bit lower, so maybe an adjustment of the salary level might be actually feasible. Um, but that's something I think we need to still think about, discuss, and see what the idea or what the future will bring us. Today, I often see that people just get the same salary as someone then hired in the location where the employer is. And there's also a bit of a tension because then people living in the location where the employer is situated, they have the feeling it's not quite fair. Um, Looking at that, I think it just needs to we need to find an solution or an idea of it. At the moment, I think it's rather fresh, and we still have to learn a bit more on that. On the right-hand side, you find lots of benefits, like, and there you see lots of times there's about flexibility, and I think that is also the key criteria you usually find when you discuss that topic with people. And if we look at the benefits, there is then we put down the top 12 basically flexible hours. You don't need to you can work basically whenever it's good for you. more or less, within certain reasons. Um, they don't need to spend so much time in commuting. I mean, if everybody just looks at their own commuting time, then you can then, and if you think, okay, I can save that, you can spend that for something else. So you feel already much better. Um, there's a flexibility to live wherever you want as an employee, because you don't have to commute, so you don't have to look at that aspect. So in case of I'm working in Zurich and love the lake, but I also would like to have a bit of a warmer climate. So I could actually choose to live in Ticino and just come maybe once a week to Zurich, and that's it. So you're flexible on that part. Um, they feel safer from working from home. I'm not quite sure where that is really coming from, but it's something where you find in lots of different statistics and data when we're asked about the benefits. Struggles is also something, and that is something we should not actually just focus on the benefits. We should also look at the struggles. And I think one of the topics, not being able to unplug, so that you constantly kind of work, is something where I fear, which is not quite good for us. Um, based on the fact as well that we are in my opinion, and that's my personal opinion, in any case too much on a computer, on a mobile, on a tablet or whatever. So there is already too much information our brain needs to work with, so that then working constantly from home, where you kind of work, then you do something privately, you work again, so which I think in my opinion, would also tend a bit to more kind of burnout situations, maybe. Also, the part about loneliness. I think remote work is also not really done for every person. Um, that might be also something where we have to look at a bit closer in future, and not forget that if someone is working remotely, the employee is still there. That brings us to the part about advantages and disadvantages. And we just raised a bit, or a couple of them. Employees say work life balance, flexible hours, transport savings, not just time wise, but also financially. Um, I just mentioned the part about burnout. Employees think it reduces. I'm not quite sure about that. Creates flexibility in every sense, basically. I mean, if you have kids and the kid is sick, you still can work from home, no problem at all. You don't have to tell your employer, basically. So it gives you a bit more flexibility. Advantages for on the employer side, there's also some. It's cost saving. You have maybe access to a bit bigger pool of global talents. Um, Employee satisfaction, and with that goes usually the productivity. Even if you ask managers even if you ask the line managers, they have the feeling it's not in that sense, but I think there is still a bit data missing to really touch that part. And disadvantages, and I think there's also still a bit what we need to learn. um, there is a difficulty to manage remote working people. So with that, I think we need to still learn a bit more how to do that well, and how to do that so we get the same results as we learned with managing people in the office. Lack of communication, I think that is something which is definitely we need to work a bit more on. I think in your own firm, you know that yourself. You have people who constantly communicate with other people, and then the topics where you should communicate about, you don't. So I think there again, that has to do with we have to still get to used to the new situation. In my personal opinion, again, meetings online is great. I like to see faces, so that I think is quite good. But still, a meeting in a meeting room with the people personally attending, it's complete different than to have them just online. You just get another feel. So therefore, I still think it shouldn't go away, the personal meetings, but um, it's kind of a disadvantage, I think, that we all do everything, more or less everything, really online. And data security definitely is something where I think we still need to also be a bit more cautious and look at what we are doing. Where to set up remote work. And I think there is then also employers need to make their decisions what they accept and what they don't accept. The majority of remote work still takes place in the home office, but also there, it's a bit of a discussion usually, whether home office means it needs to be really one room the employee is using, which he kind of closes. So also, again, looking at security, data security, and stuff like this, or whether you don't care at all as an employer. Um, that is something each company and each firm has to make their decision. Also keep in mind that those numbers might also be different looking at different countries. Those are now Europe based, but definitely looking about working in coffee shops, that might be something depending also there on country as well as on cultural acceptance as well as on the industry, that might be completely different. Internationally, if we look about digital nomad visas as well, so for a longer term, then we found one list of countries where they say these are the top 10. Um, Unfortunately, Switzerland is not on it, but it's also not surprisingly because we don't have a digital nomad visa, so we not even foresee that might happen here. And here you have a different statistic again for a couple of countries listed, which are the top 10 basically, with a couple of better understanding and giving you an idea about it. We talk here now about in case someone would like to go for a year or 2 years, work from a different location than from the home location. Um, this is also something which will not be, which not everybody, or not everybody can do, as well as it's not possible for all the positions and all the jobs. So there are lots of kind of limits to that as well. And this brings us also to the next part about the legal aspects. Now, legally spoken, we kind of need to make a difference between I'm employed, for example, in Switzerland and working in my home office in Switzerland, residing in Switzerland, and working from home in Switzerland. So same country, same regulation. Whether I now do that 5 days a week or 1 day a week, that is something else. But that's my working pattern. So basically, their labor law no issue, same labor law. Immigration, also no change. Social security, no change. Income taxation, also no change. Payroll, I don't need to really look at because I can run the same payroll, no change at all. Data security, data protection, I need to look at that part because someone is working from home. So there is a bit of an issue with that. Also looking at which network they use and that. Now, if we go and move that part a bit in the international or in the cross-border area, like still the employee um, is hired and is employed in Switzerland, but now is working as a cross-border employee, so living and residing in a different country, and then working partially or fully from his out of his home. Then we have the issue about labor law that mandatory requirements of the other country have to look at. Immigration. Is that individual allowed to work from home based on citizenship or permit? Social security wise, might be a change depending on which regulation we have to look at, which social security treaty we have to make an assessment. Income taxation might be a change as well because the working from home might change the income taxation to the home country the country where the individual is residing instead of where the employer is situated. Payroll, we might end up in having to have two payrolls, a shadow payroll and an effective payroll where the payment will be done. Data security, data protection, we need to look at two different countries. Maybe there is a bit of a change in the other countries, so we need to look at that even closer. These are the situations I think which definitely everybody has to deal with. And then on top of it, we look now at vacation, where someone is just going for a very short time. Usually companies tend to say up to maximum 30 days a year an employee can go and work from anywhere. We have to look again on all those matters. And it's not, for some, we at least say it's not the same as someone would just work out of Switzerland. And then if we look at someone working for either permanently, so we hire the individual, as in the earlier example in the UK, he's working 100% for the Swiss company. Again, we have to go through those 7 items and make an assessment, which is challenging, but I think if you go through all of them, you find an answer and you can then implement it. And in the end, it's also you need to take a decision whether how worth it is to actually go to those extra cost in the end, as well as to the extra step and extra mile. But looking at the lack of talents and the need to have talents, I think that is something maybe we just have to also again get used to it and find good solutions for the future. And the last category, where we just looked earlier on the last slide, previous slide, on the different countries about digital nomads. So if someone would like to work for a year, maybe out of Dubai, Mexico, Portugal, or wherever, again, you have to go through those 7 points and make a decision. Basically, what you should take away from that slide is yes, there is a lot to think about, to look at, but you can always, for almost all the situation, you can find a solution. I mean, there are lots of situations where you can't, but to just say it's not working, it's not working, which that is not true. It's just the position in the end you have to take to say, we don't want to go to that extra mile. That's fair enough. Then everybody knows that as well, and it's absolutely fine. It's a decision you have to take in the end for the firm and for everything you're responsible for. And that brings us as well to our last part about the future. We've read and discussed also with other companies that apparently employees see that employers monitor their online activity, um, which is, if you state it like this, you have in the first instance you have the feeling that shouldn't be the case. But looking at it a bit closer, it's something where the employer in the end has to also safeguard the companies and the employer's interests. So it depends a bit on what the activity is, and I think employees should be aware of it, that will happen and need to happen. I mean, looking at every firm, there is at least an IT security team looking always about everything. So, and because the IT security team is implemented from the employer, so it's in the sense of, or from the sense from the employer. Um, the entire remote work, there is apparently a tendency that it will decrease a bit, so the full remote working, but the hybrid part is expected to increase. We will see what will happen. And from the World Economic Forum, there is they indicated there should be a trend kind of that in 2030 there should be about 90 million remote jobs. We will see whether that really is happening. What I definitely think and believe is that remote work is here to stay. So it's something we definitely will deal also in the next couple of years, and we will see where we are in a couple of years, whether the tendency or whether the idea that hybrid remote working is increasing and the full remote work is decreasing. We will see whether that is true. Thank you very much for your today's attention. I would like to draw your attention to our Swiss Global Mobility Conference. Please check it out. It's a great place. You find great speakers, which we were able to get for the conference. So check it out and save a place for you. And then I would like to meet you and see you at one of our next webinars. The next one is on the 25th of February in German, then about the topic remote work or teleworking abroad and all the legal aspects. And the next Coffee and Consulting is on the 3rd of March about strategic use of global mobility. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you.